The Rewind Project, where Allie, Matt, and Eric take another look at your favorite milestone movies through the lens of our present day. Will it be a skip, rent, or buy? Stay tuned and find out.
Hey everyone, we are back in the rewind machine, setting our dial back 25 years, but it's a new year, so we're back to setting our dial back 25 years, and we've landed in 1998. So let's ground ourselves, shall we, in the world of 2 years before the millennium, which seems like yesterday.
I'm going to be insufferable for 1998 because I studied abroad in spring 1998. And so, you know, us study abroad folks were like in your face about it. So, yeah.
Okay, well, you're talking to a Navy brat, so whatever. One semester abroad.
I was in London during the peace talks that we're just about to talk about. So
okay, well,
the
first thing that happened in 98 that I thought was of note, peace was brokered between the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland.
Good Friday Accord.
Which was a really big deal. The U.S. President Bill Clinton did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Sure, Bill.
I mean, I was also in London during like the height of that, so you can only imagine the British press with that particular story. Like,
yeah, I'm learning so much about the British press from Spare, which, yes, I'm reading it, and I'm not ashamed.
Oh, I read the first 10 pages, and I was like, I don't think I can continue last night. So I was like, oh no, this is not for me, I don't think.
Okay, well, I'm listening to it, so Prince Harry reads to me every time I get in the car.
Maybe that's better. I don't know. I was like, oof. Yeah.
So did cigar sales go up or down after that scandal? I'm just curious. Wrong scandal, but
yeah. Well, no, that was the scandal. That was, that was part of it. Although that allegedly happened in 96 or 97. We just found out about it in 98. Will and Grace debuted on NBC.
Oh my gosh.
It debuted in 98?
Yeah.
I thought it was a 2000 show. That's interesting. I guess I'm skewed in my head.
Yeah, I mean, it lasted through the early part of the millennium. I mean, it lasted for several seasons. So there we go. The FDA approved a little blue pill called Viagra.
Sure.
Yeah.
Patriarchy. Hashtag patriarchy.
Yeah, exactly. Apple unveiled the iMac.
Man,
25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I coveted that turquoise iMac. Whoo, I love that thing.
I mean, it looked like a portable television, but it was like really, really cool version. Yeah.
Yeah. What else happened? There was a 66-day blackout in Auckland, New Zealand. I don't remember this story at all, but 66 days they had no power. In a fairly major city.
I would murder everyone. I would be looting. I would probably be dead.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
That's 2 months. I mean, how? Yeah. I mean, society must have broken down in that time.
I'm assuming that there were ferries to Australia that you could take. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it was. I read that and I was like, I don't remember that story. And I was an adult, like I was watching the news, but like I don't remember any reporting on that at all. Which just goes to show how much in a bubble we live in America with our news. It's like, we care about what happens here and very little else.
All I can imagine is like Lord of the Flies, and all of a sudden the lights come back on and people are like, oh, and they just like walk back to their houses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, there was a Twilight Zone like that where the lights went out and people thought it was like aliens and everybody turned on each other.
And then the final thing that I wrote down, and I do remember this, the Winter Olympic Games were held in Nagano, Japan. And I love an Olympics.
I could not tell you any Olympics that I've ever watched, quite honestly.
I'm not a huge Olympics fan. I will put it on because it's on, and that's what people are watching. But like, I don't know. I'm not.
It's funny though, Allie. You go see football live all the time, and I could not care less. But when curling is on TV, I'm glued. I don't know why. Those weirdos with the broom on the ice rink, and it's mesmerizing. I can't stop watching it.
I mean, look, that's what makes the world go around, right? Yeah. No. If I went to a curling match, I think that I would stab my eyes out.
I'm fascinated by the whole thing. And ski jumps, I love watching the ski jumps and just, all kinds of things that you just never see. And I think I like the Olympics because it's once every 4 years.
Maybe, well, it's once every 2. because summer.
Well, sure. But I mean,
Yes.
each event is once every
Correct.
4.
Correct.
I mean, the curling only comes around once every 4 years, as does gymnastics and all those kinds of,
Ice skating. Do you like summer or winter better?
Ooh.
That's a question for the ages. Well, I mean, it really is figure skating and gymnastics are the most fun to watch because there's some artistic stuff that's going on there. And so, either or, I'd have to say winter probably gets a little bit of a nudge because, again, curling. I don't know why. It's hypnotizing to me.
I feel like there's like a curling society in DC. You should maybe go see.
I should check it out.
Yeah.
I'd probably get sick of it, but once every 4 years is great. Okay,
so you could tell the thirstier person here because he asked that question. I'm thinking, well, there's more Speedos inside the Summer Olympics than there are the Winter Olympics. So
True.
Yes, if you're watching for the bodies, absolutely.
There's some tiny ass bathing suits in the Summer Olympics.
There sure are. Thank you, Matt, for that.
That's what I'm
reminder.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay, 98 was also, as we found out when we were trying to pick movies for this year, a pretty packed year for movies. There are some that we did not want to talk about, but we're just going to go through real quickly about 18 movies that we're not discussing. We'll discuss them maybe briefly here, get it out of our system, and then let you know what our 98 season looks like. So those of you who like to watch along with us, this is your homework. But Allie, why don't you get us started off with some of the movies that we are not talking about in 98?
Okay, and actually, most of these I'm kind of glad we're not talking about. The first one up is City of Angels with our friend Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan.
The unbearable weight of massive talent. I need to see that. I need to see that movie.
No, not going to happen. Neither of those things. I like Meg Ryan, but I don't know.
You love Harry Met Sally, so, I mean...
I do want Harry Met Sally, but do I love it because I love Meg Ryan? No, I really love it probably because I love Billy Crystal a little bit more. But maybe that's my Jew showing. I don't know. All right, next up. Oh, God, these are like awful movies. Meet Joe Black, Brad Pitt and Anthony Hopkins. I've never seen it. Isn't he deaf?
I think so, yeah.
Well, yeah, and in City of Angels, I think Nicolas Cage is dead, too. You got all the dead ones. I'm sorry.
I think he's actually an angel, isn't he? In City of Angels?
Well, he's not a human. He's not a live, living human.
Right.
I think people would debate whether Nicolas Cage is human or not. Anyway.
I mean, excellent point. Excellent
casting. Good casting.
Armageddon, which I really also have never seen, but I really only know because it's the Aerosmith song. But it's also Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck. And that's the one where the meteor's going towards Earth, right?
It's a popcorn film. It's fun for the afternoon, but it's not a great film.
I've actually only seen one of these movies on this list. Next up is actually a movie that I had on my list to pick, but I'm kind of glad that we didn't end up picking it because I've actually never seen it, Saving Private Ryan. Literally zero women, so that probably would have put me into a rage anyway. Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, Vin Diesel, a million other hot-ass men in 98 in war. Apparently, it's an okay movie, but the beginning 10 minutes or 15 minutes is what everybody talks about. Is that correct?
I almost threw up.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, it really does. The shaky cam, it makes you feel like you are there. I mean, it is really great, immersive cinema. If you want to feel like you are on the beach during a war and bodies are, falling all around you and limbs are being torn off of people and all that shit. I mean, it's nonstop and it's relentless. And then the story gets started 15 minutes in.
So I was in the second row from the screen. So literally just staring upwards when it was happening with the shaky cam. I had to close my eyes halfway through because I thought I was going to puke. It was just so bad.
Yeah, maybe I'll see it. I don't know. The list is long. There's a lot of movies before Saving Private Ryan. Next up is a movie I have never heard of, and I had to look up because I just was like, I can't believe I've never heard of this movie. It's called Twilight. It is not the vampire Twilight, which, P.S., I've seen all of those movies and read all of those books. Catch me at another time to talk about that. But this is a movie with Gene Hackman, Paul Newman, and Susan Sarandon. And I just have to read the description really quickly because it's Banana Town. So Harry, who is Paul Newman, is a retired private eye. He lives in the estate owned by Catherine and Jack, Susan Sarandon and Gene Hackman, respectively. They were old school movie stars. He's shot by the couple's runaway daughter, who is played by Reese Witherspoon. okay. Again, I've never heard of this movie. And then Harry is like living on their guilt, and then he gets a mysterious package, and he's in like a blackmail scheme. So this movie sounds totally wackadoo, and I actually maybe kind of want to see it. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Where'd you even find it, Eric? I've never heard of this movie in my life.
I literally went to Google and I said movies of 1998, and I looked at all of the things that it showed me, and I was like, oh, I love Gene Hackman, I love Paul Newman. Susan Sarandon, I'm lukewarm about, but I like her performances usually. But I was like, and then I looked it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want Allie to introduce that to the masses, because
maybe I watched that today. We'll see. Have you guys? I'm assuming neither of you have seen it.
No, never seen it.
Never even heard of it. So all right, well, Twilight, maybe at Twilight tonight I'll watch it. All right, okay, moving on. Last but certainly not least is a movie that I saw in the movie theater, and I actually reference as like a point of, like when I'm talking about my life sometimes. It's called Sliding Doors, where it's blonde Gwyneth Paltrow and brunette Gwyneth Paltrow. But it's basically like the doors of the elevator close, and, it's like one way her life could have gone and one way and another way her life could have gone. And I do sometimes say, like this could be like a sliding doors moment. And a lot of people do understand that reference, but it's just sort of like, when you think about the decisions that I'm getting really philosophical. It's too early for that. But like the decisions that you make, sometimes I think about like, oh, if I had taken that job, like what trajectory would my life have taken? Or if I had, dated another person than the person that I did, stuff like that. So, it's an okay movie. Who's I'm gonna look it up, or
Sean Hannah, I believe is the guy. Yeah.
You know exactly what I was going to say. A hot British guy.
Scottish, I think. I think he's got the brogue that makes me go, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that's like a fun movie. I think it's interesting. I don't love Gwyneth Paltrow as an actress, but
I much preferred her in this movie than I did the other movie that we are not going to watch this year.
Yeah, it's excellent point. True. So those are my movies, and I'm glad that we're not really watching any of those. So yay to us.
Well, the next set of movies that we are not watching, starts off with Star Trek Insurrection. As a Star Trek fan, I would never have recommended this movie out of all the Star Trek pantheon to actually watch. This is one of the stinkers. Like every other one in Star Trek is generally good. And this was the off season. So you don't want to watch this one. Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker flying the Enterprise with a joystick was just like ludicrous and stupid. So if they hadn't lost it before that moment, I think they lost everybody.
But, most gay Trekkies want to see Jonathan Frakes handling a joystick. Is my understanding.
Yes,
that's absolutely true. Everybody wanted him to dock in their shuttle bay. So,
Eric, if you make me spit my coffee out of my expensive microphone, I'm so mad. That was funny. I like the new Star Trek films.
Yeah, so that is a point of contention too, with the Kelvin verse with what's his name, J.J. Abrams. I actually like the movies myself. A lot of Trek people do not like those movies.
Interesting. Yes. I don't want to start like a whole controversy on our podcast.
Next up, which is not controversial, is Ronin. It is a spy thriller with Robert De Niro and Jean Reno. Very good movie if you want to watch this.
You mentioned this. I gave this to you, Matt, because you talked about this movie when we were talking about chase scenes.
Oh my gosh, this is one of the best car chase scenes I've ever seen on screen to date. It is an amazing chase scene.
Yeah, Allie and I were like going on and on about the French Connection and how amazing it was. And you were like, yeah, Ronin, hold my beer. And we were like, I've never heard of this movie.
Yeah.
Incredible. Worth it just for that. But it's a really good spy thriller. I definitely recommend this movie for other people. Another movie that I actually enjoyed, and I don't know that a lot of other people did, Lost in Space with William Hurt and Heather Graham, and Joey Lawrence. Not Joey Lawrence, Joey LeBlanc.
Matt
LeBlanc?
Matt LeBlanc. There we go. I got to it eventually.
Joey Tribbiani.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I thought it was a fun movie. I liked what they did with the theme song. So I actually would, if this was on, I would sit down and watch it again. I actually really enjoyed it.
It's a rent? Wow.
Yeah, it is. It is a definite rent for me. The new TV series on Netflix, far superior. If you are into sci-fi, highly recommend it. It is a beautiful arc, 3 seasons, completely well done and finished. So I highly recommend that. X-Files Fight the Future. I gotta say, I do love X-Files, but I always like the Creature of the Week more than the stupid conspiracy that took one step forward and 4 steps back, and you never knew what the hell was going on. And I felt like he never had an ending to it and didn't know how to end it, just kept it going and going and going. So I preferred the second movie to this movie. Sorry, hot and spicy takes from a nerd.
Yeah,
check and check.
Allie and I have no comment.
No, not a single thing to say about that.
But I will be a Gillian Anderson stan for life because of this TV show.
She's amazing. She's amazing. I mean, she's just incredible in everything she does. Period. Nonstop.
Yes.
Her latest work, I've loved all of it too that I've seen her in.
Did you see that Netflix movie that she was in called The Pale Blue Eye?
I'm about to read the book, so I don't want to watch it yet. But yeah.
She's really good. She plays the mother. I think she's the only major character who's a mom. So when you get in the book, Allie, when you get to the mother, that's Gillian Anderson. Creepy. She's great.
Everybody is great in that movie. I am bored to tears through it, which is unfortunate because everybody is fantastic. It's one of those things that it just does this. It is not grabbing me. So I haven't finished it.
It is. Well, I tell you what. Okay, I'm not gonna spoil anything. I promise.
Spoil because I don't know anything about it.
But 10 years ago, I thought to myself, you know what? I've never seen a murder mystery with this kind of twist. Is that even possible? Could you do that? And The Pale Blue Eye does it.
Oh,
so
interesting.
The ending is try to get there for the ending because it's pretty amazing.
Because I am loving everybody. The guy that plays Edgar Allan Poe is fantastic.
Yeah, Dudley Dursley from the Harry Potter movies. That's him.
Is that who that is?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would never have recognized him. Wow. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's good.
Next up in movies that we're not watching, though, Sphere with Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, and Samuel L. Jackson.
Read the book. Read the book. Michael Crichton. I have, shocking to no one, I have read every single Michael Crichton book. And Sphere is an unappreciated hit. The movie was kind of trash, but the book is really fucking good. So go read the book.
I skipped classes in college to read that book.
It's so good. It's so good. Michael Crichton. If you guys have not read Michael Crichton, and I'm saying this to everyone in the audience, just start with Jurassic Park because it's familiar or whatever, but then keep going. Read The Andromeda Strain. Read Sphere. Read all of his books. They're so good.
Yeah. And the movie was okay. I think we could make a better one now. I think we would make it in a miniseries, but a 3-part miniseries would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So Netflix, get on that. And then lastly, I know why Eric gave me this movie to announce. I have hot flames licking the sides of my face feelings about this film. Shakespeare in Love, starring Gwyneth Paltrow and Joseph Fiennes, Hottie McHotterson for that year.
Okay, now here's my question for you, Matt. Do you hate Shakespeare in Love because it got all the Oscars that you thought other movies deserved? Or do you hate it because you literally think it's a trash movie?
Ooh, good question.
Probably more of the former than the latter. It was an okay,
because it's an okay movie. I mean, it's a cute little romantic comedy. Gwyneth is actually fine. Joseph Fiennes is hotter than hot. Judi Dench is on stage for 8 minutes, but she's amazing every single time she opens her mouth. Colin Firth is actually the annoying guy that you don't want her to end up with, and he's great at that. But it's a romantic comedy, and it's just sweet, and it kind of sits there. I don't understand Oscar night 99 at all either, and I'm not going to argue with that at all. But it's not a terrible movie. It got way too much hype.
Way too much hype. She did not deserve an Oscar for that performance in that movie. If anything, I would have been more accepting of her winning an Oscar for Sliding Doors. I thought she was actually really good in Sliding Doors.
And had to play two different people, sort of.
Exactly. So I just you're probably right. It's the former where I'm just irritated by all the love that it got at Oscar night, especially when a movie that we are watching should have gotten much more. So.
But look, we're talking about that movie and we're not talking about this one. So, True. Small justice, but hey.
I have to say, I saw the movie in the movie theater. I don't remember really anything about it, and I don't think I've seen it since. So I remember it being enjoying it, obviously, but yeah, I don't. It doesn't have, other than Judi Dench's performance, because it was 3 seconds and she won the Oscar, and she's amazing, and all that, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I don't remember anything about that movie. Not a thing.
Yeah, I don't either, really. So
I just remember Judy saying she's been plucked since last I saw her, and I was like, oh, Judy. Okay, well, let's talk about a few more that we're not watching, and then we'll get into our 98 slate. Another big war movie came out alongside Saving Private Ryan. This one is called The Thin Red Line, and it starred Sean Penn, George Clooney, Woody Harrelson, Adrian Brody, and a million other dudes, 0 women. And this one was Terrence Malick, who he makes these really like he stops the movie and then like looks at birds and landscapes for like 5 minutes, and you're like, why? I mean, yeah, he's very arty. I would never ever have put you through that. A movie that I really strongly considered putting into the slate though this year is How Stella Got Her Groove Back. Angela Bassett and Taye Diggs. Do you know the story behind this movie?
Yes, and also you should read the book, and you should also read Waiting to Exhale. That's Terry McMillan is a wonderful author.
Yeah, and she's great. The thing about the book, though, that's so fascinating to me is that Terry McMillan wrote this book really as a very based on her own life novel, a novelization of something that really happened to her. She went on vacation, she met this really hot guy, and they got married, and she brought him home. End of story. Well, the story continues. The guy eventually came out of the closet, had this really nasty, ugly divorce, like all that stuff, and it's just knowing the whole story and then going back and watching the way that I just thought that would be a really interesting conversation. So anyway, How Stella Got Her Groove Back did not make it onto our list.
It's basically like 90 Day Fiancé before 90 Day Fiancé.
Exactly. Then there's this movie called Playing by Heart, which my friends Ian and Gary really went on about over New Year's about what a great movie this was. And I remember hearing about it, but I never saw it. Jenna Rollins and Angelina Jolie are the two biggest names in it today, although Angelina was not a big name at the time, but she happens to be in this movie. Big ensemble movie. It's kind of a, big chill kind of a thing. Tons of characters. A better Love Actually, perhaps. I don't know.
Interesting.
They love it. I had never seen it. Great Expectations, which is a modern day take on the Charles Dickens classic, starring Ethan Hawke and having the best movie year of her life, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Wow.
She is the moment.
I think that's why she got this Oscar. She made a ton of, and there was another movie that I could have put in this long list. She made 4 movies this year. So, whatever, Gwyneth, you had fun in 98. Good for you. A Whit Stillman movie, and I really like his movies. He made this movie called The Last Days of Disco, which was taking a look back to the 70s. The soundtrack to this movie is amazing, all of these really great songs from the disco era. And Kate Beckinsale and Chloe Sevigny, before either of them were nearly as big stars as they are right now, played these 2 girls in the 70s who just went to the disco every night and just kind of had various love affairs and, just a little portrait of their life. Whit Stillman is not big on plot ever, but he's really good at kind of wry, sarcastic, funny little bits of dialogue and kind of Tarantino-esque conversations that kind of float into nowhere but are really fun to listen to and don't end in a hail of bullets. Because that's Tarantino's thing. Finally, a movie that we're not talking about, although I thought about it for a second, is The Object of My Affection. Jennifer Aniston and Paul Rudd. This is where Paul Rudd began his whole career of he's a straight man who can play gay anytime he wants to because he's so good at it. I really like this movie. This movie was written by Wendy Wasserstein.
I love her. I love her.
She was great. And the book was written by Stephen McCauley. And it's a better story when it's about the woman than it is when it was about the man, because The Object of My Affection is about the movie, I would say, is about a straight woman whose boyfriend is a jerk, whose gay best friend is sitting right there and he's wonderful. And she gets pregnant and does not want to raise this child with her boyfriend, would rather raise this child with her gay best friend, and kind of decides, hey, let's do this together. Let's kind of be co-parents who don't sleep together, who are just best friends. And isn't that wonderful? But then she gets really upset when he falls in love with somebody because he's breaking the rules. And the book was all about how tough it was to be him. And I'm like, it's not that hard to be you. It's much harder to be her in that situation. So I thought the movie was just one of the few movies that I thought was just really better than the book, which you don't hear me say very often at all. Mm-hmm. But that would have been an interesting conversation, I thought, as well. But enough about that. Let's quickly introduce you to our 1998 slate of films so that we can get this ball rolling. The first film that we will be discussing next week, so this is your homework for this week, folks, if you want to listen along with us, is one of Allie's picks. So Allie, go right ahead.
Yes, I am pleased as punch to be kicking off 1988 with the only Truman Show. I can't wait to talk about it, and I can't wait for y'all to hear about it. I hadn't seen it in a while. I remembered more than I thought, and I'm going to keep you shrouded in mystery about what I thought about it in 2023. But I was excited to see it. So, yep.
Okay, and next up is one of mine. I think this is one of the sexiest movies I've ever seen. It's got this great scene at the very beginning with George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez locked in a trunk together, very close quarters. I wouldn't mind being in close quarters with George Clooney in the dark.
Either of them,
really. Really, yeah, truly. Sexy, 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 and lots of really fun comedic side performances as well, based on an Elmore Leonard crime novel, so Get Shorty, kind of noir comedy-ish, but wry and sarcastic. And it was one of Steven Soderbergh's kind of first mainstream kind of movies. And I'm excited to talk about it because it's not, groundbreaking, but it's just really good and really fun.
I've never seen it, and I'm really excited about it.
Next up is Gods and Monsters. This was the first movie. I didn't see it in 1998, but this is actually probably the first movie for me that I can remember that I watched about a gay man. So this is starring Ian McKellen and Brendan Fraser, and it's about the director of Frankenstein and what his personal life was as he was getting towards the end of his life. It was a very interesting and emotional movie. I'm starting to get into drama at that point. So this is a really great film.
And it's about being gay and getting older. I imagine it's going to hit me a little bit differently now.
Very true.
25 years ago. And I also remember loving Lynn Redgrave in this movie as his, kind of bitter, sarcastic maid. She was great.
And a wonderful performance from Brendan Fraser. I think a lot of people forget that he actually really is a good actor.
He is good. And we're watching this just in time for the Renaissance. So, let's get into it.
True.
Let's get into Brendan Fraser, Allie.
Yes, I've never seen this movie, but I haven't seen The Whale yet. It's on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. I'm reading a lot of the...
I have a lot of thoughts about it. This is not a whale podcast. But after I watch it, Eric, you and I will chat.
I think I have those same thoughts, but we'll discuss. Yeah. The next one up is another one of mine. I haven't seen it in 25 years, but I remember loving it. So we'll see if it still holds up. Pleasantville, starring Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon. I guess Reese was having quite a year this year as well. Yeah. She wasn't, chumming it up with Gene Hackman and Susan Sarandon and Paul Newman. She was in a movie with Joan Allen and William H. Macy and Jeff Daniels, and lots of amazing people are in this film. And all I remember, it's about a black and white world that suddenly is turning into color as people's libidos are kind of waking up and getting flushed cheeks, and it's very at times. So I don't remember much more about it, but I just remember absolutely loving it back in the 90s, and I'm just really excited to see it again.
I had many debates with friends about this film. I absolutely love this movie too.
I have never, a lot of movies on this list I have not seen. I have not seen that, which I don't know why. It sounds like it would be kind of my jam. So I will report back on how I feel. You guys will know exactly how I feel about this movie.
Well, you usually kind of hold back, Allie.
Yes, I'm very quiet.
It's hard to read you most of the time.
Well, speaking of hard to read, next up is my movie, Apt Pupil, which is a novella written by Stephen King. I have read the story, which is fucking bananas. I've not seen the movie, but I'm excited. It's another Ian McKellen. It's Brad Renfro. But it's basically about a Nazi war criminal. And that's kind of all I'm going to say about that, because I want everybody to, if you haven't seen it or haven't read the story, to go into it kind of blindly because it's bananas. And I'm really excited to talk about it because, sadly, Nazi war criminals still in our news in 2023.
Well, and this isn't about the plot or anything, so I'm not going to talk about that. But it's interesting that Bryan Singer directed this movie.
Trash too.
And he has. We've learned what kind of trash he is, and apparently, the way he filmed young, underage Brad Renfro has now kind of come up for renewed criticism. So, the movie's out there. I don't feel like I'm, re-traumatizing anybody by watching this, but I'm kind of prepared to be a little icked out by the way Bryan Singer directs this young boy. Shirtless and the camera, ogling up and down his body and all that kind of stuff. So I'm preparing for a little bit of that too, but I think it'll be a great conversation. Okay, the sixth movie is one of mine. John Goodman, John Turturro, Julianne Moore, and of course, Jeff Bridges as the Big Lebowski. The Coen brothers, I tend to run real hot and cold with them. I absolutely love their True Grit. I love The Hudsucker Proxy. I love Fargo. I love so many of theirs. There are some that I do not enjoy. And I remember watching this one 25 years ago and kind of going, I don't get it. And I'm just wondering now that it has this huge cult following and it's 25 years later, maybe I'll get it more than I did before. But why is this a movie that is still something that people just, absolutely fall all over themselves for? We're going to talk about it.
We are. I saw it more recently than that for my first time. And other than bowling, I don't think I could tell you anything about it. That's all I remember.
And Julianne Moore flying through the air with paintbrushes, like doing her modern art thing, and that weird bob that she wears, which is just,
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously going to watch it again. I'll be curious to see how I liked it, because I definitely came away and was like, why did I watch that movie? It was not for me. So, again, I don't remember anything, so it'll be a fresh viewing, I think.
I've never actually seen it, but Jeff Bridges' character has lived on past this movie. And so I'm so interested in seeing this movie now and why. And then finally, we are going to be watching one of my all-time favorite movies, one of my top 10 films of all time. And probably my favorite movie of that year would be Elizabeth. I've never sat in a movie theater and felt such dread for one human being as watching that movie. I was just in awe of her performance, but also what was going on around her and what she was trying to survive. And it has an amazing cast. And again, hot Joseph Fiennes.
Yes. So if you're going to watch hot Joseph Fiennes, you don't have to watch Shakespeare in Love. You can watch this one instead. And he's just as hot. I remember kind of having and I'll probably like it more. I think this probably bothered me 25 years ago, and it really won't bother me today. But the director of this film was from India. And a lot of the set direction was very much of his kind of cultural, and it was just that looks very Indian for Elizabethan England. But I think what I'm probably going to come away with this time is just, it's probably better for someone who's not steeped in British history to tell this story a little bit more objectively, especially someone who comes from a country that was colonialized and really brutalized by the British Empire. I mean, he's going to have a very interesting take on a lot of this stuff. So I have not seen it in 25 years, and I'm super excited about seeing it again.
Yeah, I saw it in the movie theater. Don't remember a lot about it, but, I love that sort of shit, so I'm looking forward to it.
Mostly what I remember is who is she? Because I had no idea who Kate Blanchett was when I walked in. And of course, now I just, anything she does, I will absolutely buy a ticket for.
Well, and because of this movie for me, I was so taken by her in that film that I will watch anything. I don't care. I was just actually watching Family Guy because it was on, and she actually appeared in Family Guy.
I mean, that's probably the only reason I would watch Family Guy.
I might seek out that one episode just to listen to Kate Blanchett.
Even though I do find what's his face really hot. Harlan, what's his face?
Seth MacFarlane.
Yes, he's really hot.
I was going to say Peter, Stewie.
I was
hot on Family Guy.
I was like, Don? What's his name?
He's got a great singing voice.
Yeah, he's really hot.
Okay, folks. Well, that is our 1998 slate of films. Let's just run them down real quickly one more time. Next week is The Truman Show, then Steven Soderbergh's Out of Sight, then Gods and Monsters, followed by Pleasantville, Apt Pupil, The Big Lebowski, and Elizabeth. This is going to be a journey.
It's a good-ass season. This is a good-ass mini-season.
We're excited.
Yeah.
Anyway, come back next week. We're going to get started then. Until then, folks, I am Eric.
I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
Be kind. Rewind.
You've been listening to The Rewind Project. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, and Google Play. Please subscribe and rate us. It helps a lot. We love your comments and questions. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and via our new phone number at 202-618-2402. Thanks for listening. Be kind. Rewind.